Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.
We believe in this opportunity to work in Web3, and people coming in will be a massive shift.
There's a lot of opportunities that are not, they're lost, and their people's skills and their what they're really capable of doing is not able to be shined through right now.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems built on stacks secured by Bitcoin. Today, we're talking to Alex, I might say it wrong, is it Chizhik?
Chizhik, you got it right.
Awesome. Already off to a great start on a Friday here. And we're going to talk about a range of topics. We're going to ask you about your background, Alex. We're going to talk about Hardcore Finance Show. That's a really cool show that you have there. And we're going to ask you what excites you about Bitcoin startups, about the Odyssey Fund. We're going to talk about different stacks, protocols, and applications that excite you and something that you've had your eye on. I know you're the head of listings at Okcoin, but this isn't going to be around that conversation. We may touch on something, may not, probably won't. This is going to be really geared towards Stacks ecosystem. But before we dive into all of those topics, James, Alex, how are you guys today?
Yeah, doing great. It's a great Friday.
Very, very good. Very good. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk about all these things. That's a lot of stuff we're going to have to get through. So I hope we're prepared.
We have about 30 minutes today for this one. We really appreciate your time, man. And let's go ahead and jump in and just give a brief background and then let's tell us more about Hardcore Finance Show, because I love that we're in this age where anyone can do education, and people that are super knowledgeable, have a great background, are doing more educational content, and that's just awesome.
Yeah. So, well, my background is it's always been around growing companies, scaling companies. I did it both with consulting. I used to do like executive consulting, Boston Consulting Group. I worked on Microsoft strategy team, and also with my startup. So I had a startup out of undergrad, had one in business school. Most recently, before Okcoin, actually was a CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Operating Officer of a company that I ran for 40 years and went public. And then I ended up saying, you know what, now I want to come back into crypto, which I love. I came onto crypto in 2016 at Microsoft. I was part of the strategy team, and blockchain came up, right? And so we started looking at blockchain. Actually, I got looped into it by my friend, another colleague of mine on the strategy team. And since then, I haven't looked back. I remember, like talking to Vitalik and the Ethereum Foundation way back when I think Ethereum was like $10. And Bitcoin, my first Bitcoin purchase, although I wish, as we all do, you dabble. I probably bought like, I don't know, $1,000. It was nothing. It was like at $800, probably bought like a Bitcoin. And I sold it, when it went to like 2,000. I was like, yeah, I made it. It was a big accomplishment. But I found love with the space, really believe in the space, and actually it's interesting to see the cycles before, which is just really I remember the block size wars, the Ethereum fork way back in the day, which forked Ethereum to Ethereum Classic, and now we're talking about proof of stake Ethereum, which is actually, for me, like I don't care who wins in the space per se, but it's very bullish for Bitcoin, the Ethereum one, proof of stake, and so we can talk about that. And then my close friend from business school, who happens to be Okcoin and OKX's head of growth, him and I would just talk about investing. I mean, it was a side passion of ours, and one day he's like, hey, why don't we record it? And started recording it just for fun. And we still do it for fun. We're not actually monetizing the show. We probably should cover some of the operating costs here. But then we had some great, guests. We had one of my favorite guests. Some of my favorite were Sinead Colton Grant. She runs all of BNY Mellon. So BNY Mellon is one of New York's oldest banks, and she runs their whole crypto division. And then she handles, I don't remember how much, but tens of billions of assets under management.
And that's cool because BY Mellon has been in the headlines recently with their being the oldest bank being in crypto. So like huge, cannot be understated.
Exactly, huge. And we had Ben Narrison. He was NEA, which is a big venture capital fund in the Valley. And a lot of people from the crypto world, Daniel Prince and some of the guys from Swan Bitcoin, which is a competitor of ours, from Okcoin. Their CTO is actually my cousin, so we had him come on. But so, and the show has been doing well. We got picked up by this crypto or alternative investment syndication company called Defiance Media. And so people can catch the Hardcore Finance show on Sling. If you have Sling, you can just find us streaming on TV now. So it was a pretty cool journey.
That's really cool. I tell James all the time too, even if you're super early to these things, you probably traded some Bitcoin and Ethereum. I even traded all my Ethereum early back in 17 or late 18 for stacks. So yes. I didn't know what any of these things were going to be. It was just the degen in me.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a funny story. I'll tell you guys. So I remember I bought Ethereum at 10, and then I bought some at 25. And I remember this very vividly. It was like, we had some. My wife and I went to some sort of party, at a friend's house, and Ethereum like hits $55. And I was like, oh man, and it starts going down. There was a trading range of Ethereum from like 40 to 55. And I remember we were at someone's house. They were in the same apartment building as ours. And I see it hit 55. And this is before limit orders and all that. And I was like, I'll be right back. And I sprint back down the hallway to jump on my GDAX, which is Coinbase Pro, before Coinbase Pro. And I was like, oh, sell. I would sell at 55 and buy back at 40. And I would trade this little range. And I thought I was a genius. And now it's just like, little did we know.
That's funny because that kind of just sparked this memory, and I never told anyone because I was using Binance back in the day, and I was like, man, what the hell is this shitty BNB token? This will never do anything. And I traded it all, and then I realized what I did 4 years later. I was like, oh man, I'm such an idiot.
Yeah, it's the actively managed crypto by Binance. They actively manage the price. I mean, I don't know. Allegedly, I'll say it like that.
Well, that's why they say Bloomberg, the best portfolios are the people who've passed away and no one touched their portfolio.
There was I don't know if you guys, I forgot who put this up on Twitter, but there's a great meme, and it said the market, it was talking about the stock market. It was something like, the market sure was better when the Federal Reserve could insider trade stocks.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Yeah, exactly. They were like, oh, these things aren't going down. It's our wealth is tied in.
Oh man,
that's too good. Yeah. So with all that said, you got in. It sounds like you got in fairly early with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Tell us how you found Stacks. Where did you hear about it first?
So actually, I heard about Stacks a little bit from before joining Okcoin, from the head of growth. He's like, listen, Ethereum's dead. There's Stacks on Bitcoin. And then when I joined Okcoin, I met a lot of the Stacks folks. At that point, it was Mitchell Cuevas was their head of. He was kind of the head of partnerships or head of ecosystem, and then a couple more folks. Brittany, who's the head of the Stacks Foundation. And I started looking into Stacks, and it was an interesting little project at that point. And I was thinking, it's kind of cool. There's a smart contract layer on Bitcoin. This is a year and a half ago when Stacks just came out, and there were issues with the network. And as I kind of learn more about the protocol, but mostly about the team. So look, I kind of see this whole space as a VC space.
Mm-hmm.
So even from a listings perspective, when I'm at Okcoin, I look at these protocols and say, okay, well, XYZ is out there. Should I list it or should I not? I think of it as like an investor, like a venture capitalist would. They write checks, I list. And so I look at the team, and the team was just like, I met a lot of project teams, and the Stacks team threads the needle between being super smart and super down to earth and very humble. And that to me says a lot. I mean, I'm sure you guys are saying the same thing. Munib and Brittany, they all come from Mitchell, Kyle, Ellicott, Trevor, Kyle and Trevor run the Stacks Accelerator. I mean, the Shannon who does their events. I'm probably missing a whole bunch of people. So if Stacks people, if you're out there, I'm sorry. But I love all of you. Jesse, who's one of their developers. Anyway, you see some of these guys. Some of these guys are like Bitcoin OGs. Some of these guys can talk your ear off in terms of what's node structure, right? What's like what are consensus algorithms? What's way beyond my skis. And when I started talking to them and looking at what Stacks really is, plus the team, I started getting more and more bullish on it. Then I met Patrick with Miami Coin. We listed Miami Coin, New York Coin. We did the same thing. I met Keontae with Alex. I mean, there's just so many Tyco with Zest, Xverse, the wallet. There's just so many projects that are starting to come up on Stacks that I became more and more bullish on as time went on.
Yeah, when I first learned, and I was in the same camp too. Like I wanted to do more with my Bitcoin, and back then in 2016, 17, during the ICO craze, you would see a landing page, and this is where I say there was Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then Stacks that actually like had well thought out white papers, well thought out websites that actually educated people. And that's where I learned, okay, I could actually do more with my Bitcoin. So just hearing you talk about that journey, and I was working early with Patrick Stanley, because he had created a Freehold, and that's why we created the Cerulean Marketplace for Web3 gigs. When he was talking about this idea of creating this protocol for cities, I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. But then once it launched, and I just saw the craziness that went around, and it brought back attention to like civic engagement, and that's the power of crypto. That's the true power. Like data, you're being able to own data, being able to have civic engagement now in cities because people are interested. That's where the light bulb went off for me, and I thought, okay, this is really on to something here.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be curious. I would love to hear how James got around to it, but I saw the same thing. It's just a shame that some of these projects have come up during, one of the worst macroeconomic downturns in the last century, if not the worst, arguably by some metrics, the worst than the Great Depression, by the way. So the liquidity gets sucked out of some of these protocols. Miami Coin, New York Coin were also susceptible to this. The idea is quite interesting, and I remember back in the day. I think we even had don't quote me on this, but I think we even had trucks driving around downtown Miami. It was like Miami Coin. It was Okcoin sponsored truck. I don't know if you guys have seen these.
Yeah.
It was like, have you seen these?
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of it. Yeah.
It was like something like Stacks is raised or donated X million to the city of Miami. Your move, bankers, and it was right around Brickell. It was driving around right around the financial district of Miami, which is quite good. So look, it's a nice, cool way to rethink civic engagement and rethink what it feels like to own a part of the network that is your city, right? So it's a very innovative way to think about civic engagement, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say too, it's like, you were talking about the macro and all of that. And I think you see a lot of people that are still here, and where they're spending their time and where a lot of the focus is there's a lot of things here in the future, no matter the macros, people know this is going to exist. This is going to be quite the space 5-10 years from now. And I think, what's getting built today, you have primitives, you have all kinds of things that are going to be very useful in the future. And it's just exciting. It's exciting to see. And it is tough because we try and highlight all the work that gets done. And yeah, it's tough because everyone's worried about just like their grocery bill or something right now. But
Exactly.
there's a lot of tech, and there's been a lot of tech that came out of like the financial crisis of 08, that like Uber came out of 08, right? And so there's all kinds of exciting things that I think are going to be on the horizon.
Yeah, I agree. I had the pleasure of speaking at Bitcoin Unleashed, the Stacks conference during last year. Everything's a bit of a blur with all the dates, and there's just so much happening all the time. But there is a lot of movement starting to emerge on the Stacks ecosystem. And again, like, let's call it what it is, right? The developers on Stacks are lagging the developers on Ethereum for sure. I think Solana and so on. But having said that, there's the momentum is really palpably starting to pick up, from the conference to the types of apps that are being built. And I fundamentally believe, and I talked a little bit about proof of stake, Ethereum going to proof of stake. There's 4 or 5 entities that own 60% of the staking power of Ethereum. Lido is one, and you can argue Lido is, an amalgamation of individuals, but you can argue that. We know what happens when the U.S. government, Tornado Cash or others, and stops it. There are ways of when there's one entity holds it, not your keys, not your coins. When they holds your wrapped Ethereum, they're holding your wrapped Ethereum. Then Coinbase, Binance, Kraken. I think Coinbase is like 15%. Binance and Kraken are 7 or 8% each. So just 4 entities own about 60% of the market. They're all U.S. entities, so the government can come in and stop and actually tell Coinbase, hey, look, don't validate these transactions. Whether Coinbase will comply or not, who knows? But they are an American company, public company, by the way.
Yep.
That's a big bullish case for Bitcoin. And so when I think about DeFi, one thing we've learned from the Luna crash and Three Arrows Capital and the recent havoc in the markets is that the DeFi protocols, I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, I'm sure, but DeFi protocols didn't fail. CeFi protocols failed. And so when we think about money, right, money, just the biggest value are going to come to Bitcoin. DeFi, I believe, is going to come to Bitcoin. That's why I like Alex. I like Zest, more institutional grade kind of lending and financial services product. Express Wallet, very interesting wallet. Once money comes to Bitcoin through Stacks, because Stacks enables smart contracts versus just like payments through Strike and so on, you're able to do a lot more, and Stacks becomes more and more exciting. And I think the value will start coming back into Bitcoin once people see that there's Bitcoin, the network, there's Stacks, the network, and you can actually be, take part of these exciting developments.
Yeah, speaking about the valuation, James and I were just talking about Arcadico, right? That's one of the pillars that's going to be able to bring Bitcoin and do other things with stable coins. And if you look at their valuation right now, or the market cap, it's really low. Over time, you have to imagine if this is similar to like a MakerDAO on Ethereum, but this is on Bitcoin, that's going to attract a lot of attention and a lot of capital.
Exactly. Like we hope, right? We'll see what's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
We hope these things come right to the platforms and the flows come. I believe they will, right? I believe they will. We just the ecosystem needs to mature a little bit. Stacks has been doing a great job, by the way, with like evolving the protocol and making the protocol seamless. We're talking about Stacks 2.1 in terms of when we met in the green room And then at least my session was about Stacks 2.1, automatic staking, continuous staking. That's important, right, for the ecosystem, and so on and so forth. And so I forgot what they're called, the microtransactions on Stacks, right? What are they called when you don't have to send the micro blocks? I think that they're called. That's important for faster transactions. So you're not waiting 10 minutes for something to be secured because it's sitting on Bitcoin. So I think Stacks is about to hit a tipping point where you're really starting to see some serious projects come up and hit their stride.
Yeah, you mentioned. Oh, go ahead, James.
Oh yeah, I was just going to speak to the technology side of it. I like to look at Stacks like with the tech developments. Like when the mobile wallet came out, you had kind of the infrastructure for NFT marketplaces and DeFi to occur. And I feel like one of those big unlocks is going to be when you can have that Bitcoin hitting your Hero wallet. It can already hit your X-First wallet, and being able to right now every Stacks wallet also has a Bitcoin address. So you already have that, and it's just to be able to unlock that and be able to use that on chain. I see a lot of value there. And I think a lot of these protocols, like you mentioned, it's going to be a huge unlock because people don't necessarily want to sell their Bitcoin for other assets to be able to do these things. So to be able to use it natively is going to be a huge.
By the way, Alex wanted to pull on screen that truck you mentioned.
Found it.
Yeah,
there it is.
We remember this tweets flying around, the trucks driving around Miami.
Yes, look at that. Really cool. This is amazing. That's right. These are our trucks. This is I won't. This is a good collective idea by the marketing group. But these are genius trucks that we had.
Hey, what is how has the community feedback been around the Bitcoin Odyssey? Is there a lot of interest in it? Is there some projects being planned, or I don't know what you can say about it or not say about it?
Yeah, so the Odyssey was it's a pledge fund. It's about $170 million pledge fund towards the Stacks ecosystem that we started with myself, Harrison, and my team at Okcoin, Kyle and Trevor from the Stacks Accelerator, and obviously supported by the Stacks Foundation as well. We wanted to make a concerted bet on Stacks and bring some major VCs in the space to Stacks. I almost have to pull up. There's some people that wanted to be unnamed, so I can't mention their names. Most of the top, like DCG, for example, many of the top big groups are participating in the fund. So the performance has been good, but here's my caveat. We started this thing in December of last year. So we started a month or two before the real shit show has started. And then, Russia invades Ukraine. And then, well, we all know what's happening to the market. We've been precipitously falling, cascading down. So a lot of VCs in the space in general stopped writing checks for the longest time. And some checks are still flowing, but very, very judiciously. I think we meet once a month. Every month there is a project that's getting funded or has a lot of interest to be funded. So I don't want to misspeak, but there are definitely projects that have many follow-on conversations, multiple follow-on conversations with multiple VCs after the pitch. We typically have 3 months and so on and so forth, which is great. The VCs are actually still bullish on the Stacks ecosystem. There are a lot of people in the space that believe in Stacks. It's also just happens to be a pretty terrible time to invest because of the volatility and the uncertainty. So, what's the net in a normal, economy and normal run? I don't know. I think pretty positive. But right now it's, projects have a bit of a hard time raising money across the board. Unless you're a founder that had an exit or two that you could just say, hey, look, here's what I've done before. Just give me money and I'll make 10x your money in 2 years.
Yeah, it's good to hear that you're still having meetings with these folks and for people to be judicious with their money and uncertain times, it's just smart. That's how everybody is right now. And for the people that are out there building, I think in some ways there's a lot of focus on providing value, right? When there's times where everyone's hair on fire, there's 10x gains everywhere. I think a lot of things get funded that it's maybe long term, but now that people are being judicious, the things that are getting funding, I imagine, are going to be very, very useful here in the near future.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
Okcoin has listed or did list Arcadico back in 2021, and I know there was a recent survey potentially about Alex Go. I think we're all bullish on Alex Go, and there was some more information. What makes you so bullish on maybe you can't say it, but what makes you bullish about Alex in general?
Well, again, I love the theme. For me, it's theme. So I guess let me zoom out. For me, it's like, is it on narrative, right? Or actually, is the narrative correct? DeFi and Bitcoin, yes. Is it on narrative? Yes. Does it have a strong team? Yes. Alex is all of those. Mm-hmm. Great roadmap, great team. I'm a big fan. So that's in general the whole DeFi category in Bitcoin. I can't wait to see more and more projects to really push the space forward. Lending, borrowing, perpetuals, derivatives, wallets, interop between all the different protocols, and so on and so forth. And so I do like them. I can't tell you what we're going to list and if we can list, but I can tell you that at Okcoin, we look at many projects and we go through a rigorous process from a business perspective and also legal and compliance perspective to make sure that the projects we list are not securities. And then from that, we go on and we choose the ones, that pass both sides, and then we end up listing them. That I can say, but I cannot say whether each project, where they fall on the spectrum.
Well, that was plenty of information, Alex.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I think you'll be able to answer this question. So when it comes to projects that don't have a coin, how closely do you keep your eye on projects that are kind of just getting started or that are kind of building in the works? Or how focused are you guys on those in terms of following the space?
There are many in the space, right? There's probably 15,000 coins if we're looking at it, and probably if we're honest with ourselves, 14,800 are complete trash, and then the 200 that aren't, they kind of circulate, right? Some make it, some don't, just by natural atrophy in the space. Maybe 14,500 are trash. So we look at the small projects. However, there's a lot from an exchange perspective that goes into listing a token. So let's say we decide, hey, it passes, legal and compliance, it passes the business rationale, great token. Then you have to look at, and that's just part of the business review, look at the community. We look at, code drops and GitHub, for example. We look at Twitter followers, Telegram followers. We look at what people are saying. What are the themes? We also look at liquidity, right? We want to make sure that if it's a small project with very little liquidity and not a solid market maker that they work with, putting them on an exchange will just have a broken market. If there are 10 people trading this thing, it could be the best project in the world, but if there's 10 people trading it and, some 5 people will have, a bid and want to buy at $5, and the sellers will have an ask at $7, you have a gigantic spread, right? And how do you close the spread? You don't. The market just sits there. So you have these jagged lines of no trading activity, just very flat, straight lines. When that happens, we don't want that. That's not a good experience for anyone. That's not a good experience for our customers. Last thing we want to do is have our customers be, not that we can guarantee any results, but come into an illiquid market or buy a coin that's actually kind of a shit coin. So we look at the small projects, but they definitely have to have some sort of proof or test net. We don't typically or ever have listed anything that doesn't have a main net live. Right? So I need it to be a little bit more robustly developed before I can list it.
This is awesome, and Alex, thanks so much. I know we're coming against the time here, and the last thing we wanted to ask is when Okcoin rolled out the buy STX and earn Bitcoin, there was a lot of good community feedback. So in addition to that kind of feedback that communities, the Stacks community is participating in stacking with Okcoin, what other big areas of growth do you, when you look out 5-10 years for just Bitcoin adoption and startups, what really excites you?
Specifically on Bitcoin?
Bitcoin.
For me, it's DeFi and identity. That's the other one that people aren't talking about. So look, we're going to be in a multi-coin, multi-chain world. The most valuable things to a person are going to be, I think, on Bitcoin. Now, because Ethereum moved to proof of stake, Bitcoin is the only censorship-resistant, government-resistant chain. Again, caveats, if you actually talk to an IT super geek, they'll tell you there's ways of shutting down the internet globally and so on and so forth. And there's certain centralizations and then the Bitcoiners will tell you, well, you don't need the internet. Well, at some point, you actually do need the internet. So there's just all these hypothetical debates flowing around, right, about kind of what's what. So do I believe there's going to be a concerted global effort to shut down the global internet? No. Maybe if there's nuclear Armageddon, maybe we're not going to have the global internet. But then again, we have other things to worry about.
Yeah.
Right. So I think identity is going to come also to Bitcoin. I think, for me, if I think about what do I care about, I care about my wealth, right, and who I am. So some sort of attestation of driver's license, passport, it's global. They can't be coerced by any one government. If we have 4 entities that control 60% of Ethereum's proof of stake, 3 of those entities have some sort of presence in the United States, right, and China. So then if you're telling me you're going to put your identity on Ethereum, that means that 2 countries in the world, and primarily the United States, can actually control people's access to your identity. Ultimately, no one's going to want to do that. No one. Shimon and I on our podcast, I forgot which pod it was. It was actually, maybe it was an Ethereum episode. We talked about how the Ethereum switch to proof of stake makes me and makes both of us more bullish on Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And actually, it creates a very clear delineation between Ethereum, VC, compute, Bitcoin, decentralized, unencumbered by the government, by any kind of government, as much as anything can be. And so it creates a clear use case of Bitcoin and what it is. So I think, again, finances, DeFi, and identity are going to come to Bitcoin ultimately.
That the move from proof of work to proof of stake for Ethereum, it makes me bullish on Bitcoin, and it makes me even more bullish on Stacks, to be honest. And we saw recently there was some NFT artists that came over to Stacks because there's decentralization, and we believe in the foundational principles of Bitcoin: censorship, resistant, permissionless, and decentralized. And if you can't get that on Ethereum anymore, I mean, yes, you can still trade it. There's a ton of DeFi there. There's DAOs and NFTs, but ultimately, over time, I personally believe people will trend towards decentralized, permissionless, censorship resistant. It's just so clear as day to me. All right. Hey, Alex, this was really awesome. Really appreciate your time today. And where can people learn more about you if they want to?
I love it. I need to switch to this platform. I need to have you guys come on the podcast. I love the moving in and out of the screens. Just follow me on Twitter at Mr. EBITDA. This is from my old EBITDA is a financial term. It's free cash flow, actually. This is from my old turnaround days of when I would turn around companies.
You got to catch up with the times, right?
That's right. That's right. And then just add Okcoin for trading, and the Hardcore Finance Show. Check it out. I mean, we're on Spotify. We're on Defiance Media. We're on Apple Podcasts. Yeah, the website. We need to update the website. God, this is what happens when you do things for fun and you don't have a team. Actually, this interview that you're showing is with a great venture fund called Cosimo X. This is their head, the founder. They ended up after this joining the Bitcoin Odyssey because we talked to them about stacks, and then because of the podcast, we didn't know them. They came on the podcast. Rob is to the left here, and then they joined the Stacks Fund. So there we go. We're getting stacks for the podcast.
That's awesome to hear. And we also dropped the link in the chat on Twitch and on YouTube, and we'll definitely share these links out on Twitter and below in the descriptions, because this is awesome stuff. When I didn't even realize too about your show, Alex, and I watched a couple episodes and I was like, this is some really good content. I mean, you're so busy, you probably don't. You have the casual conversation like us too, right? We have casual conversations. We don't have a ton of time. We work full time and have families, and so we cut the content when we can.
Exactly.
Yep.
But it's fun doing, guys. Thanks, guys, so much for having me on. We should definitely do it again. And yeah, go stacks, go Bitcoin, and let's get the hell out of this macro hell. The sooner the better. We're also going to be trading Ethereum 50 to 40 again.
Well, Alex, James, we really appreciate the time today, Alex. This was awesome, man. Thanks, and would definitely love to have you on in a couple months here coming up.
For sure.
Yeah, great talking with you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, James.
Take care.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.